So the reason why I'm saying this is I think it really is important to really truly own that, being the author of your own life, and start writing down your dreams and your plans from that place, even if they're dreams that you can't actually do right now.
Welcome to the Stories Cafe podcast, the espresso version of Stories Cafe, offering quick, enriching moments of reflection on literature, cinema, archetypes, philosophy, and the art of living deliberately. Just like a perfectly crafted espresso at a Parisian cafe, each episode is a brief pause for you to submerge yourself in something invigorating and fulfilling. I'm Annette Wernblad, course creator, internationally published author, and wanderer at heart. So cozy up as we explore the powerful world of stories, how they shape our lives, and teach us the art of living deliberately. Welcome to the second of the 3 episodes that I recorded a few years ago when I lived in Nice. In this episode, I'll tell you about how I myself stepped back into fully being the author of my life and living my deepest dream after the trauma of the lockdowns. To get the full benefit of these connected episodes, you can go back and listen to last week's episode if you missed it.
We have been subjected to trauma after trauma for years now, and I think a part of us somewhere inside has gone into almost like zombie mode. And I think it is time now to really start thinking about ourselves, even under those circumstances, even when we're going through more difficult times, to even still, during those circumstances, think of yourself as the author of your own life and take back the creative control of your life. And the reason why I'm saying this now is because I'm not totally free of this, despite the fact that this is my brand, this is my business, this is what I do for a living, thinking about stories in that way, is that when I started thinking recently, what are my biggest dreams? What is it that I really want to go after in my life? What is it that I really want to live? And it isn't really a lot more income. I mean, I'd like to raise my business to the next level and to take it international and all those things I've been talking about. But the real thing for me is probably the freedom to really live the life that I want to live. And for me, and I'd sort of forgotten that along the way, both with the going through COVID and going through the trauma of the war and going through some very, very difficult circumstances in my own life. It was hard for me to even actually feel that sense of the passion. What is it that I really, really want to go for? What is my deepest why? Not just for my business, but for my life. And for me, those two are actually inextricably connected. And what I promised myself about, I think 7 years ago, I made a list saying what I really want. What I'd really like to do is to be able to live for at least 1 month a year in a city other than Copenhagen, where I'm based. And I made a list of the cities I wanted to live in, and I instantly back then went into action and created a home. It's not just that I want to live there as a tourist or as a traveler or even as an adventurer, even that's one of the archetypes, as you know, that I feel connected to. It's that I want to live there and have an everyday life. I want to live there and work. I want to have a schedule, get up in the morning, go for a walk, and then go back and work, and then go for a walk at lunch, and set up a life and feel what it feels like to live in it. I'm very much a city person, so far my list consists mainly of cities. So I started building a home for myself in Paris, and having that same home, not just some kind of random Airbnb or random hotel that you go to, but actually being able to set up the same kind of home. Obviously not owning all those homes, even though that would be nice somewhere down the road, but actually the freedom of not owning them. And just going back to that same place in Paris year after year and several times a year. And then it's shifted to London for personal circumstances. So fairly recently I said to myself, why don't you start living that dream again? And then the opportunity almost immediately is one of the things one talks about in connection with when you make a decision from that standpoint of being the author and being the writer, screenwriter, and being the editor and being the actor in your own life. When you really make a decision, and one thing I think that's so interesting about is that the original source of that word means cutting off. And what that really means is when you make a decision, you cut something else off and you stay with what you've chosen. So as soon as I got back to that way of thinking, and I actually, to be honest, at that time I couldn't even still feel that dream, but I had it down on paper on all these notes I'd written. So I knew that that was my dream. As soon as I made the decision to go after it again, even though a part of me was still numb and feeling paralyzed by everything that's happened, both in my personal life and to all of us, things started kicking into action, and I got an opportunity to move to Nice for as long as I more or less wanted. So that's what happened. And for the longest time, until I actually came here 4 to 5 days ago, I was in a state of almost shock, and I couldn't, if I hadn't known that that was my dream, it would have been hard for me to do it. And it was almost like that for me, is that I had to do it, and I had to sort of do it by force of will, as a famous book on Hemingway is called, by force of will. And then as soon as I started moving, as soon as I went out to the airport and I went down here, the dream started coming back, and the sense of being the writer of my own life started coming back. And now I'm in a place where I can feel that dream. So the reason why I'm saying this is I think it really is important to really truly own that, being the author of your own life, and start writing down your dreams and your plans from that place, even if they're dreams that you can't actually do right now, even if they're dreams that you want to do, if you want to go live in Paris for a month or a year or forever, or even to go visit for a week. This is just one example because I'm kind of crazy about Paris. But if you have that kind of dream, write it down and see what happens, even if you can't do it now.
Next week, I will finish our little 3-part series by telling you about some of the amazing artists who have lived and worked in Nice and the south of France, people who lived their lives very deliberately. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you enjoyed your espresso break and learned something new. If you're eager to dive deeper into the world of stories and ideas, be sure to hit the follow button in Spotify or the plus button in Apple Podcasts so that you get each new episode straight to your podcast app. You can also visit us at Stories Cafe. Just go to stories-cafe.com. There you can explore free content for a taste of what we offer, or if you're ready for more, a paid membership unlocks in-depth discussions, full access to our archives, and a vibrant community of fellow story enthusiasts. I am so thrilled to have you here, and I look forward to welcoming you back to the Stories Cafe soon.